Food is an important part of any celebration in all nations of the world, regardless of culture or religion. It can unite and strengthen community bonds and helps to maintain a common identity among a group of people. Different countries use food in different ways to help celebrate special occasions like Christmas, New Year, graduations, weddings, and birthdays. However, the success of occasion depends on how well it is planned, from the decors, house arrangement, and the food that must be specially chosen, prepared, and served. Good morning everyone, I am Joebert Facun, and it is a lesson that I plan to share with you today. So at the end of the discussion, the BEED 3D students should be able to discuss the factors to consider in planning a menu for a special occasion, recognize the significance of planning a menu, and lastly, develop a meal plan for special occasion. So before I start, I have a question for you guys. So for you, what are some of the factors you think should be considered when planning a menu for a special occasion? Okay, so anyone? You may use your raise hand button to recite. Okay? Alright, thank you everyone for your answers. Thank you for your participation with my question. Okay, so let us continue. Meal planning is the art of planning meals for the family and for special occasions. It is the simple act of taking some time to plan any number of your meals for the week. It is a great way to make sure you're eating a balanced diet and meeting your nutritional needs. The family meal pattern usually includes 3 main meals: breakfast, lunch, dinner, and sometimes snacks. Knowing what to eat, how much to eat, when to eat, and then preparing your meals is one of important aspects of achieving a healthy, balanced diet. So today, I will be discussing the factors to consider in meal planning for a special occasion. So first, occasion and purpose. In planning a meal for a special occasion, it is essential to consider when the food will be served and why it will be served. You must identify food is used to celebrate, whether it could be birthdays, weddings, graduations, Christmas, and New Year. So the next factor that needs to consider in planning a meal for a special occasion is food budget. It refers to the amount of money needed for the food to be prepared. It should be prepared ahead of time. For instance, next month, you will be going to celebrate your birthday and you are planning to invite your friends. So, you must plan beforehand. It is better if you plan 2 to 3 weeks before your birthday so that at the day you will celebrate, there is nothing to worry about. In budgeting food, first, you will need to identify how many friends you're going to invite. It is necessarily to know the number of visitors for you to prepare the exact amount of food so there would be no leftovers and no food will be wasted. Additionally, you should also consider your budget for the ingredients that are needed in preparing a meal. For you to save money, try to look for promos online or in the market for the essential things that you could use in your special occasion. So the next factor that needs to consider in planning a meal for your special occasion are tools, equipment, and facilities. The menu you have planned can only be prepared if you have the needed tools, facilities, and equipment. For instance, if you're planning to bake pastries for your visitors, you must have the necessary equipment for baking, like measuring cup or spoon, rolling pin, mixers, oven toaster, and the like. Another example is that if you're planning to cook spaghetti in your birthday, so you must have the following tools and equipment like casserole for boiling the pasta, sauté pan for making the sauce, ladle for mixing, and strainer to dry off the pasta. And most especially, you cannot do these things without having a good facility or a place to cook to, because facility is also a factor to consider in preparing a meal. You must have a clean surrounding so that you will be able to concentrate on how to cook a certain food deliciously. So the fourth factor would be time and energy needed. You have to plan meals which will make reasonable demand on time and energy. So to save time and energy, it is advisable to plan dishes you are familiar with and that you have skills and ability in preparing them. For instance, in celebrating birthday, you should not cook unfamiliar food to your friends just to impress them. Instead, cook food that are usually prepared in birthday celebrations like spaghetti, pancit, Shanghai, Big Mac, sopas, carbonara, and so forth, so that your time and energy would be saved and you will be having time and energy to accommodate your visitors. Furthermore, in cooking dishes which use the same equipment will take time for one dish to be cooked. So, it is preferable to use various cookware on each dish so you wouldn't be shorted in time. For instance, you're about to cook 5 dishes. Try to cook them at the same time as soon as you can. And before proceeding to the last factor that needs to be considered in planning a meal for special occasion. So I have a question first. So now, my question is, why we need to consider the culture or regions of our guests in our meal preparation? So anyone? Again, so you may use your raise hand button to recite. Alright, thank you everyone for your participation. So, let us find out if why we need to consider the culture or regions of our guests in our meal preparation. So, our last factor is food preferences of guests. In preparing a meal, you should always consider what dishes would the guests love to eat and what popular and special in a given culture or regions. For instances, one of your Muslim friends will be attending on your birthday party and you knew that he was not eating pork then. So as a respect to his culture, you wouldn't serve him anything that is pork, right? Instead, try to prepare another dish like food that was popular to him so that you have another option to offer. Moreover, some of your INC relatives are also attending in your birthday party. So as complacent to them, you will not be serving a blood stew because they might get offended, right? So instead, try to prepare another dish for them. And lastly, to avoid disappointment from your visitors, try to have some research if what popular food where your visitors come from. Like if most of your visitors are Kapampangan, you must include Kapampangan dishes like sisig, bulanglang, bringhe, and so forth. So somehow they could feel at home in your birthday celebration. Okay, so those are the factors that needs to consider in planning a meal. Again, these are the occasion and purpose. Second, food budget. Third, tools, equipment, and facilities. Fourth, time and energy needed. And fifth, food preferences of guests. So again, anyone who can recall the 5 factors that needs to consider in planning a meal for special occasion? Alright, so you may use your raise hand button to recite. Alright, very good. Alright, so before I end this discussion, I would like to ask you the last question. So now, why do we need to develop a meal plan on special occasion? Again, why do we need to develop a meal plan on special occasion? So anyone? Okay, so again, you may use your raise hand button to answer. Okay. Alright, thank you so much everyone for your participation because you will be able to answer all of my questions. So again, this is Joebert Valiente Facun reporting for this day about the factors that needs to consider in planning a meal for special occasion. Thank you for listening everyone. I hope you learned a lot from this day. And God bless everyone. Keep safe. Bye-bye. Bye.